Initially, when Splitgate 2 was announced and it was revealed that the game would be going in a new direction with classes, or as they call it, factions, I, along with many others, had some concerns. Is it trend hopping? Will it feel imbalanced? And will it feel like Splitgate? The answer to those three questions are maybe, no, and yes, it does still feel like Splitgate. So I'm currently 5 hours of gameplay in. I streamed the game for 4, played it off stream for 1, and I thought that is a good enough time to give my initial feedback and thoughts on the Splitgate closed alpha. I want to start by saying that I was pleasantly surprised. I went in not really knowing what to expect, but also feeling like I may be met with something I didn't like, and that was not the case at all. In fact, it was the opposite. I thoroughly enjoyed the 4 hours I played on stream, and I'm excited to play more. I will be streaming the game again, and I will be playing it off stream again. By the time this alpha closes, I will probably play 10 plus hours of it, which is a decent chunk of time. So initially, things did feel a little bit strange. It didn't feel exactly like Splitgate 1, but that's also not a bad thing. It just felt a bit heavier. It felt much more classic AAA. When you sprint, your character bobbing up and down, really feeling the impact of the footsteps, things feeling extremely dramatized and cinematic, etc., right? It sort of lost the floatiness and the smoothness that we got from games such as Quake and Unreal Tournament, which is what Splitgate was also inspired by originally. But although it's lost some of that floaty gameplay, it did gain things such as sliding, gravity lifts, speed boosts, and other things that still keep momentum a key element in the game. I would say it is less momentum based than the original, and it definitely feels slower than the original, but this is a smart move business wise. Obviously the original game was very fun, but it also had quite a niche audience that was high retention. What I mean by this is many people have played Splitgate 1. It was viral, but it was viral for a short space of time, and the amount of people that played it for longer than the couple months it was viral for were players that probably played previously, or players that, really got to grips with the portal mechanic, the momentum, etc. When it went viral. Everyone else just kind of went back to the place they came from. That be easier games that were easier to pick up and grasp and didn't require hundreds or tens of hours of learning. The onboarding process for other games was much easier. Now, with Splitgate 2, I could comfortably pick up the game and win multiple games in quick succession after only playing for a couple of hours. I found a 4-stack of other creators or streamers. We played for about 90 minutes and we won every single game. We didn't drop a single match. So if you were decent at Splitgate 1, that carries over. And if you maybe have never played it or you weren't as good as you'd like to be, it is easier to pick up Splitgate 2. And it's much more of an easier onboarding process for a game. The classes are obviously a huge part in this. The main class for players that are new to Splitgate or not as confident with the portal mechanic would be Sabrask. His weapons are probably the highest damage dealing, so if you want to be able to impact the game by dealing damage and, fragging opponents, Sabrask is the class for you. But if you are a Splitgate 1 veteran, then you're probably going to go with something like Eros, which focuses on the speed, momentum, agility, etc., and then also using that to still help frag opponents. Personally, I have the most fun with Eros. I like speeding around the map. I like being able to quickly jump, slide, boost around, and I feel like that class is really good for people who played the original game. I also feel like that class helps boost the performance of the split stream weapon, which is like an SMG that you can split apart and then dual wield. Moving fast while using that and being able to get closer to opponents is vital. On the other side, Sabrask, which is much slower and a tankier class to use, seems to have much more effectiveness when using things like the rocket launcher. I haven't quite figured out why this is. Part of me feels like when using Sabrask in the rocket launcher, 3 rockets shoot out or something. I've had this happen a few times. I haven't quite figured it out yet. It may just be when you zoom in though. It could be that. But so far, for whatever reason, I've preferred using rockets with Sabrask, the split stream with Eros, and Meridian is a weird in-between. Meridian is still a very good class, and I've had several games where the entire team decided to go Meridian for one reason in particular, and it's the ability to see through walls. Now, the ability doesn't last too long, so it's not extremely overpowered, but it does seem to be the last-ditch solution to win a game if you are down, is to just go, okay, everyone, let's start seeing through walls, and it does seem to help. It has saved me multiple times from losing a game. I would like to see a third power weapon introduced in the sniper rifle. It seems to not be in Splitgate 2. Maybe it just hasn't been added to the weapon sandbox yet. But I'd like to see that, and I would like to see Meridian be the class where that is the most effective. So earlier in the video, I mentioned balance, right? I thought that, these classes, factions are going to make the game imbalanced. Well, not really. The three main aspects of each character do help balance things out. As I said, Meridian being able to see through walls and hit people from a distance, etc., and help teammates by being able to ping people that are close by with that, line of sight, the vision thing, forget the name of it. Anyone that Meridian shoots also shows up on the minimap or gets tagged for a short duration as well. And then Sabrask being the weapons expert, giving extra ammo, having the shield, and also having a very powerful assault rifle. And finally, Eros being fast and all around the go-to solution for people who are familiar with Splitgate. They do all balance each other out pretty well. I didn't feel like any class in particular was, the go-to. It is very much a rock, paper, scissors scenario. And I like the fact there's three. I don't think they should introduce any more. I would be scared if they did start to introduce things such as the way that like Apex Legends has done it, where there's now like 24 heroes or classes, etc., right? It just becomes a bit too much, a bit too saturated, and it becomes a horrible onboarding process for new players later down the line when there's so much to learn and so many options to choose from. I think the current dynamic of the rock, paper, scissors scenario works very well. Visually, it looks great as well. This is the only game, I believe the only game that I've played so far that uses Unreal Engine 5, and it looks really good. Personally, my PC couldn't handle the epic settings, but I played in medium, and it still looked visually better than the majority of games using Unreal Engine 4. So huge step up in graphics. Splitgate 1 and Splitgate 2, there's no comparison. Splitgate 2 looks miles better visually. And yeah, they just need to work on the optimization. Like, my only negatives would be, found a couple bugs, it needs optimizing, and there's slight imbalances here and there with the weapons, like Sabrask's assault rifle being maybe a little bit too much damage, and Meridian obviously being able to ping opponents and things like that. But as I said, they do cancel each other out, and so far I haven't found like a go-to class that really stomps the others. There could be tweaks here and there. I think the majority of players would like to see a bit of a nerf on Meridian and possibly a bit of a nerf on Sabrask's weapon damage. But if those are the only things that I can say in regards to how many cons there are, then it's in a pretty good spot. For an alpha, this feels very, very good. It feels more polished, and it probably has more content than some games that get released in today's age. If this is the alpha, I can't wait to see what's in store for the beta and the full game. My advice would be to not change things drastically. It works right now. I wouldn't go a completely different direction. I wouldn't, change many things about it. Just more maps, a bigger weapon sandbox, little bits of balancing here and there, and obviously fixing any bugs, and then optimizing the game, which usually comes towards the end of development anyway, so it's expected that some PCs might not be able to handle the game. I'd also like to dedicate a portion at the end of this video. I should have really spoke about this sooner, given the game is literally based on portals, but I want to talk about the portals for a little bit. I feel like the portals in Splitgate 2 are less of a necessity, right? Obviously, the introduction of things like classes and abilities and stuff like that is so that people can pick up the game easier and feel involved without having to learn this mechanic. However, there has been a clip posted yesterday which is going viral. As of me making this, it has 4.5 million views. The clip is posted by Jake Lucky, but the original gameplay footage comes from Chenzo, who is a Splitgate 1 pro. The footage shows him triple portaling around the map for about 40 seconds straight, getting multiple kills and hardly receiving any damage. He is absolutely stomping everyone in the lobby. And there are lots of comments from people on this post saying that the game looks like a terrible viewing experience from an esports perspective, or just from, you know, a VOD footage perspective on YouTube, etc. Struggling to keep up with what's going on, not only from an actual player's perspective, but from a viewing experience too. And this game does seem to heavily focus on the competitive esports aspect, and I think they're really going for that with the way they've sportified the game. Now, not everyone will be able to do what Chenzo does. In fact, there's probably only a handful of people that can. The top 36 players, right? The players that will be playing in the Pro League can do what this guy does. But this presents a problem for the viewing experience of Splitgate esports, is that it might not be fun to watch. It might face the same problem that Splitgate 1 had from an esports perspective, in that if it's not fun to watch, well then people aren't going to watch it. If they can't comprehend what's going on, and the gameplay footage they're seeing in this pro circuit looks nothing like what they experience in their bronze and silver lobbies where the game is much more casual, then there might be a huge disconnect between the competitive side and the casual side. So I think maybe there needs to be some kind of nerf on the portal. I've said this before and received backlash for it, and I think portals have been somewhat nerfed, but the pro players seem to be getting around it already, and maybe it needs to be further nerfed to really cater to the casual audience and a broader audience, and help that, you know, viewing experience. But that would be my only huge negative out of everything that I've seen so far. And this isn't something I've experienced myself. As I said, not everyone can do what Chenzo is doing. I haven't experienced anyone who is triple portaling everywhere and outright dominating and winning TDMs 15-1 or 15-0, etc. Right? I've won the majority of my games, and I'm not a portal player. I'm just decent at shooter games and have 1,000 hours of Splitgate 1 experience. And I feel like I am in the top, you know, whatever percentage, maybe the top 10, 5% of players. So that's why I feel like you can compete and you can have a fun time without being a mastery of the portal mechanic. But obviously, yeah, there's some people that feel like it hasn't really changed, and it is somewhat unwatchable from a viewing experience. So yeah, the comments, just to end off this video, I'll go through some of the comments. I'll go through the top 10, right? Some big people here. Hidden Xperia, a Halo creator with 600,000 subs. The portal mechanic is really cool, but this is literally unwatchable. Another person looking for new ports says, I see the skill, but this doesn't look fun to me. Next one down, this is dying in a year. And the next one down, I appreciate them trying to have a high skill gap, but this is way too much, and it's not fun to look at. Another one, definitely going to play this, but adding a cooldown to the portal might be needed. Right? So the general consensus is the same as what was going on in Splitgate 1. Is that the vast majority of people don't think it's fun to watch, absolutely don't think it's fun to play against, and can't manage to do it themselves. Now obviously, Splitgate know this, 1047 know this, and the introduction of things like classes and certain weapons that deal more damage, etc., are their attempt to combat this, to introduce the game to more people and, you know, make sure they have a chance. But how much of a chance is my question? How much of a chance do they actually have? Is it going to get to a stage where they get to the top, top 30% of players, and then all of a sudden they can't break the barrier because everyone above there is slowly getting better with the portals, and they just can't break into the top, whatever percentage, and they end up in a situation where they feel stuck, right? The moment you get to that stage, the game will no longer be fun, and people will drop off. So yeah, I think I went a bit too much into detail on that bit, and it probably sounds like I'm being very negative, but I want to get across everything that I've experienced myself, which, as I said, 95% positive, but what I'm seeing online is raising some concerns. So, wanted to address both things here. Personally, I've said this before, if I was in charge, I would probably try and nerf the portals a little bit, but not heavily, because you don't want to alienate the audience that was there initially, but you obviously also want to bring new people in, so you need to find that balance, and I think they know this. So I'm sure they've seen this clip, I'm sure they'll take everyone's feedback on board, and hopefully they make the right decision. I want them to make the right decision, because the game looks great, plays great, feels great, it's lots of fun. I haven't played a game which has kept me hooked for 5 or 6 hours straight in a very long time. If this game, has a good player base, it's well balanced when it comes out, the performance is good, it's optimized and things, and it has lots of content, I can see myself playing this over Halo for a second time. So, yeah. Hopefully they make all the right decisions. From me personally, it's good. I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future. They pleasantly surprised me, and I hope they continue to make good decisions. So, yeah. To 1047 Games, if any of you are watching this and you've got to this point, congratulations. Seal of approval from me, and I hope you continue to do well going forward. I'm very jealous as somebody who tried to make their own video game, or is still trying to make their own games. Seeing the success that you guys have, makes me jealous, and I wish that one day I can accomplish even half or even 10% of what you guys have accomplished. So, yeah. All right, that's it. Goodbye.